countdown is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, good morning. Aren't you so happy to be in church today? Man, I'm up here. I got to walk up here and I'm like all snotty and I'm crying, Listen to that last song. I'm just like, whoa. So I'm just so happy to be here. I feel like God is in this place. I really feel like God is going to do something this morning. I'm so thankful that you're here. I really do feel his presence, and I hope that you do as well. Hey, we're in week 3 of this message series that we're calling One Small Step. And it's really based off of Neil Armstrong's words that we just heard. He said this is one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. And in this series, we're talking about taking one small step in your life that could make a huge difference in your life, but also make a huge difference in someone else's life. And that small step is sharing the gospel, sharing the message of Jesus with just one person. I mean, who knows the implications of what that would mean for you and also for that one person? So how are you doing with that one person? That's a rhetorical question. How are you doing with talking to that one coworker, that one family member, that one friend, that one person in your life? How are you doing with that? Well, before I get into the message today, I want to ask a question. How many of you have ever been like really, really, really scared? Raise your hand. I'm not talking about like seeing a spider and screaming like a little girl like me. I'm talking about like really, really scared. Raise your hand again. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about a time that I was really, really, really scared. I was about 17 years old, and we lived off a busy highway in Michigan. And my dad at this time he was traveling a lot for business. And so I was kind of like the man of the house at the time. And I remember one night, we lived kind of out in the country, but it was off a major highway, like I said. And I remember one night I stayed up late, and I was in the Lazy Boy, and I was watching Jay Leno. Like, what 17-year-old is watching Jay Leno? I guess I am. So I was watching Jay Leno, and I remember having this eerie feeling that someone was watching me. Have you ever had that feeling? You're out in public, and you can feel someone staring at you. Raise your hand if you ever felt that. Okay, so you can feel someone staring at you. And so in our house, as you sit in the living room, you can look to the right, and we had a screened-in back porch. And so this is like at, 12:30 in the morning. And I remember just keep looking over. I'm like, man, I just feel weird. I feel, there's just something there. So I looked over, nothing. And then I heard the wind chime in the screened-in porch do its wind chime thing. What do you say? That just the things hit it. I don't know. And so the wind chime went off. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I stood up, and I sheepishly kind of walked over and kind of did a quick glance. Nope, nothing's out there. So I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. And so my room was here, and then it's like my parents and my sisters are kind of over here. And I remember laying in bed, and I heard this noise, and I picked my head up. And I'm like, nah, that's nothing. Put my head back down. I'm like, nah, that's nothing. Third time, it was so loud, I woke up. I had a weapon underneath my bed because I'm the man of the house, right? So I got to protect my family. So I grabbed the weapon underneath my bed. I flipped on all the lights. My mom heard it. She started crying. We knew someone was in the house. So as I stood, I went into the hallway. I heard dum, 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 dum. Someone was on top of the roof. Then, yes, is that scary? Yes. So what happened was another person came through the screen in the back porch. We always kept our back kitchen window open. He came through and knocked over some dishes as he was coming through the window. And so what I heard was someone on the roof, and then someone ran through the kitchen and then out the front door. Scared to death. So I remember I had the gun. I'm just going to say I had a gun. And I remember standing in that hallway in the living room with the gun up, shaking, because I knew that something was about to happen. Like my life might be over in the next few moments. And I remember my mom in the back screaming, and she called 911. And then the next thing I knew, as I was standing in the living room, the whole living room was lit up with light. And there was 3 or 4 police officers who had their floodlights on, and they said, "Put the weapon down." I was like, "Oh, gee." So I dropped the weapon, you know. I was like, "It's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's someone else, some other crazy person." So I remember they did a great job. They went all over. We had a standing cornfield in our house, never found the person. They found footprints up top, but they never caught the people that broke in. And I remember feeling so much fear, like my life is about to end. Have any of you had that type of fear where you're just like shaking in fear? Raise your hand. Have you ever felt that? Well, we're going to talk about someone today named Ananias who felt this same exact fear. Ananias was a disciple of Jesus living in Jerusalem, and God spoke to him and said, "I want you to go talk to Saul of Tarsus." Now, if you don't know who Saul of Tarsus was, Saul was the biggest persecutor of the church in that day. He was a murderer. He was someone who tried to wreak havoc all over the early church, and he would persecute Christians, execute Christians, and kill Christians. Actually, Saul was at the stoning of Stephen, the first Christian martyr. So this guy was a bad dude. And so God says to Ananias in a vision, "I want you to go talk to the Saul of Tarsus." And as we're gonna read in Acts chapter 9, Ananias is not too keen on this idea. He's like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." Like, you can imagine the same type of fear that Ananias must have had, that like I had, like because he could literally die. Saul was killing Christians, and it was known that he was a persecutor of the church. And so we'll pick up the story in Acts chapter 9, verse 10. In Damascus, there was a disciple named Ananias. The Lord called to him in a vision, "Ananias." He called to him, "Ananias." "Yes, Lord," he answered. The Lord told him, "Go to the house of Judas on Straight Street and ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul, for he is praying. In a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias come and place his hands on him to restore his sight." "Lord," Ananias answered, "I have heard many reports about this man and all the harm he has done to your holy people in Jerusalem. And he has come here with authority from the chief priests to arrest all who call on your name." So you can understand why Ananias balked at this dangerous assignment that the Lord gave him to talk to Saul of Tarsus. I mean, Saul was the most feared enemy of the church. He was obsessed with stamping out Christianity all over the region. He was an intimidator. He was a persecutor. He was brutal. So no wonder Ananias got this mission from the Lord and said, "You want me to do what? You want me to do what? You want me to go talk to this guy who's killing everybody? Yeah, sure. No, I'm not doing that." Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard God say something to you and you go, "Nah, I'm not going to do that"? You know, maybe even like last week, you're at work, and you kind of felt these stirrings in your spirit. Maybe you didn't even know what it was. You felt these stirrings in your spirit, like saying, "Go talk to your coworker about me." And you're like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that. That's too scary." Have you ever felt that, like the whispering of the Holy Spirit, and not do it? Well, that's where Ananias is at right now, and he's filled with fear. And friends, Jesus has given all of us the same commission that he gave to Ananias. He's told all of us to go into the world and share the gospel, share the good news of Jesus with everybody. Share salvation and the forgiveness of sin with every single person in the world. Friends, we have the best message that anybody could ever have. We have the key to salvation. We have the key to heaven. We have the key to hope. Why do we not share it with our friends, our coworkers, and the people around us? Sometimes we're worried, it's just fear. We're afraid of what somebody might think of us. We're afraid that we may not have all the answers. Maybe we want to share, but what if they ask me a question about the Bible that I don't know how to answer. What do I do with that? And so that keeps us from sharing our faith. And maybe you're thinking, well, it could be an HR problem because, we're not really supposed to talk about these types of things and I could get fired. And so that keeps you from sharing. Sometimes we just want to be liked and we don't want to come across as being too religious. But friends, like I said, we have the thing that can save every single person. We have the gospel. We have the good news of Jesus. And so it seems to me that there are 4 different types of witnesses in our world. There's 4 different types of Christians in our world. And a witness is basically someone who's just trying to share the gospel. And there's 4 types, and I want you to identify which one you are. The first is the influential witness. The influential witness. I want you to take notes too. So if you have pen and paper, you have the thing that we print out, the bulletin, take notes because I want you to get this. Today is going to be a big day and a very important day for all of us, I think. So there's 4 different types of witness. The first is the influential witness. This person is waiting for the perfect time to share the gospel through their actions, right? There's this person named St. Francis of Assisi who is credited as saying, preach the gospel and if necessary, use words. What's interesting about that is St. Francis never said that. And Jesus said to go into the world and preach the gospel. See, the influential witness is hoping that someone will see the way they live and then want to come to know Jesus. But seldomly does someone see the way you live and say, tell me how I can be saved. And so the first is the influential witness where they don't want to speak the gospel. The second one is the occasional witness, the occasional witness. This person will occasionally speak up for his or her faith if all the stars align and everything's perfect and someone says, hey, tell me about Jesus. Or maybe it's the type of person where you have a loved one who passes away and you have an unbelieving friend there and you build up all the courage to say, well, I think we'll see this person again. Like that is the occasional witness. And then thirdly, we have the invitational witness. The invitational witness. This is the person who is eagerly inviting people to church or to other Christian type of programs and in hopes that they will come to church. This is like the woman, or hope that they will come to Christ. This is like the woman at the well who said, you need to come and see this Jesus. He told me everything about my life. He knows everything about me, yet he still loves me. The invitational witness. That's probably about 90% of today's evangelism. About 90% of sharing the gospel happens through this level of inviting people to church. And the last is the testimonial witness. The testimonial witnesses. These are the people who are eagerly wanting to share the gospel with every single person that they meet. If they have a family member, if they have a coworker that they feel like doesn't know the Lord, these people will share the gospel and introduce Jesus to them. Let me ask you this question. Out of those 4, which do you most identify with? Which do you most identify with? I want you to write down which one you most identify with. And so as you try to grow in your witnessing and try to grow in just sharing the gospel, I want to give you just a few things that you can walk away with today. Because I feel like my job as your lead pastor is to give you practical things that you can take home with you to change your life. So there'll be life change in you. See, I don't want to come here and just give a nice little pretty message and then you don't leave change. We want life change. We want you to do the things that we talk about. My greatest fear is that I would not be useful. That is what keeps me up at night before a Sunday is I'm praying, God, help me to be useful. Help me to say things that people can practically take into their life and use it every single day. That's why I stress taking notes, is because people remember about 5% of what I say. About 5% is what the stats say. People remember 5% of what someone preaches. Imagine trying to write a remember 5% of what you say. So, but if you write it down, you remember it. Okay, so I want you to write these things down. So even though sharing the gospel can make you nervous, even though sharing the gospel can make you scared, what will help you be more courageous is if we understand this key principle. I want you to write this down. God often prepares our hearts in advance to receive the good news. God is often preparing someone's heart to receive the gospel before you even share the gospel. And so here's the rest of the story with Ananias and Saul. Ananias discovered that God had already been where God was asking Ananias to go. God was already working on Saul's heart. You see, Saul was on his way to Tarsus, and Jesus met him in the middle of the road, on the road to Damascus. There's this bright light, and Jesus says, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul says, who are you, Lord? He says, I am Jesus of whom you are persecuting. So he meets Jesus on the road. And so God is already softening Saul's heart. God told Saul that there's going to be a man named Ananias who's going to meet you at your house. He's going to lay hands on you. He's going to pray for you, and your vision is going to be restored, because when the light hit, Saul was blinded for 3 days. You see, Ananias feared a hostile reception, but what he encountered was an eager Saul, ready to hear the gospel, because God had already been softening Saul's heart in advance. And so what we need to understand is that when we share the message of Jesus, we often discover that God was already dramatically preparing someone's heart to hear the gospel. I want to share a story, a video real quick, of this same thing that happened. There's a person in our church named Pete who God was working on his heart well in advance before we ever got to share the gospel with him. Check out Pete's story.
2019, in a word, has been transformative. It started off with constant punches in the face. My grandmother passed away early January, and then the day after her funeral, I had to put my dog down and bury her, and then 4 days after that, my employer threatened my job. So leading up to that, I had some anxiety issues and attacks kind of coming on. But after that, naturally, the anxiety attacks were a constant daily battle, which I was pretty consistently losing. And as an effect of all of that, my marriage was also circling the drain. So fortunately, my wife decided that she needed to get help, and one of the things she did was started going to churches in Fayette County. And after going to Crossroads, she came home really excited, pumped up, and I agreed to go with her. And each message, I would walk in and listen to it and think to myself, Emily went to the church earlier that week and told Adam, this is specifically what we need help with, because it's exactly what was talked about, anxiety and depression. The Easter message about the resurrection spoke directly to me. Owning your own faith, not borrowing it from your parents, because that never works, and was why I was probably an atheist for 20 years. And then the marriage series, which was tremendously helpful. But sort of the pinnacle of the year was Emily decided that she wanted to go ahead and get baptized. And I was fine with that. I was just kind of treading water, going along with her. And while she was up there getting baptized, I lost it. Just started ugly crying and sitting next to our new friends, Katie and Jimmy. And I'm thinking to myself, if Jimmy sees this, it's going to be bad. He's going to think I'm a complete sissy. So I'm trying to reel it in and get it together. But very shortly after that, Adam and we had lunch, and I told him, I started ugly crying when Emily got baptized, and I have no idea why. And he just kind of smiled, and he's like, oh, I wonder why that is. And I said, I haven't taken communion, and I feel like that I would be kind of a hypocrite if I did. And I don't know how you just wake up one day and say, I'm not an atheist anymore, I'm a Christian, and this is how I believe. And we had a big conversation about that, and what Adam said to me was, I want you to do this. I want you to read one chapter of John for the next 31 days. I think it was 31 days. And each day, just 21 days. Each day, just say a short prayer that God reveal himself to you. And after 5 days, I texted Adam. I was like, I'm done. I'm good. I'm in. Sign me up. I don't need the rest of the days. And what God did to reveal himself was just this feeling of overall comfort and everything's going to be okay. A feeling I hadn't felt in a very, very long time. And it was bizarre because it wasn't something that I went out and tried to get. It was just something that happened. So I feel like it happened to me, and I didn't make it happen to myself.
Can we just take 2 seconds and praise God for that story? Like, you know, this isn't bragging on a me story. This isn't a story of Jesus working on someone's heart well in advance before I ever got to talk to Pete. God was working on him. I remember when we had lunch, we were talking, and like he said in the video, he said, man, Emily got baptized, and I just started crying, and I just don't know why. And I'm like, haha, God's drawing you to himself. You know, like, it's awesome. And that should give you and I some boldness. Like, God is already working on people before you ever even share the gospel. Before you ever share the gospel, God is working on that person. The second thing I want you to write down is this. Another reason for us to be bold is this. The message we proclaim is extremely powerful message. The message that we have of freedom and grace in Jesus is the most powerful message in the world. 1 John 3:1 says this. Let me read it again. How great is the love of the Father is lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. I mean, what is a more powerful message than that we are children of God, that there is freedom and salvation in Jesus, that we were born sinners in need of a Savior, and God sent his son Jesus into this world to die on a cross. And he didn't stay dead, but he rose again 3 days later for you and for me, so that we can have hope, so that we can have peace in this world. The Bible says that we can have peace that this world can't understand. Is there a better message that you can think of than that? My friends, you and I have the most powerful, life-changing, life-altering message. Somebody get excited with me. There's got to be someone in this room who's excited about sharing the gospel. Like, we have the most exciting message in the world. That should give us an extreme boldness. Because you can take someone like Pete, who is an atheist for 20 years, and he sees his wife get baptized, and Jesus starts working on his heart, starts working inside him. I didn't even do anything. God is already doing it. I just simply handed out the invitation to read the book of John. And the book of John explains the whole gospel. And Jesus moved in his heart. And now his life has changed. His wife's life has changed. And think about the impact that means for their children. We have a powerful, powerful message. Let me ask you this question. Who in your life needs to hear this message? Who in your life needs to know that there's hope when they feel like there is no hope? Is there anybody in your life who needs peace? Is there anybody in your life who needs a peace that surpasses all understanding? Do you have people in your life who can't even get out of bed because they're so depressed and they feel like everything is hopeless? Do you have people in your life who don't know they need God, whose marriage is on the rocks and they think that they can fix it by themselves, or they think that they can find salvation another way? Do you have anybody in your life that needs to hear this message, who needs to hear the message of Jesus? I'm going to go ahead and preach anyways. You guys just sit there. I'm going to continue to preach. Is there anybody in your life? Because let me ask you this question. If you have people in your life who don't know Jesus, there is a train coming for them. There is a semi coming for them. It is like as if they're standing in the middle of the road, and there is a semi coming for them called hell. And you and I are standing on the side of the road watching the semi come. If this was a real situation, you wouldn't stand there and just wait for the right opportunity to push them out of the way. You wouldn't wait for them to invite you to come out into the road. What you would do is you would run out there and tackle them, because you see the semi coming. and they maybe don't see it. At some point, you run out there and tackle them. How much do we have to not like somebody to not share the gospel with them? Like, if we truly believe that there's hope and life only in Jesus, how much do we have to not like somebody to not share that with them? And I don't say that to convict you. I say that to motivate you, to think about that thing. Because hell is a real place, and so is heaven. And both of those places are coming. And if we have this most powerful, life-changing message, we cannot keep it to ourselves. You see, if a soldier has confidence in the superiority of their weapons, that gives them so much more confidence as they go into battle. It helps eliminate fear. And friends, like I said over and over and over and over, we have the most powerful message that could ever be thought of, that could ever be born. We have the message of Jesus Christ. So that should give us courage in every single situation that we walk into where the enemy is present. Every situation that we walk into and someone doesn't know the gospel, we should walk in with boldness and confidence because we have Jesus. Another thing I want you to write down is this. We are commanded, not suggested, to share the gospel. We are commanded by our superior officer, our chief commanding officer, to share the gospel. It's not suggested. When Ananias reluctantly protested to God about his assignment, this is what happened. It says this. He said, I'm not going to do that. The Lord said to Ananias, go. Then Ananias went. It's like one of those things where you tell your wife, I don't want to do that. She says, you're going to do that, so then you go do it. It's like one of those things, you know. Like the Lord said to Ananias, go. And he's like, all right, I'll go. Okay, I'm just going to do that. You know what I mean? So then Ananias went to the house and entered it. This is so powerful. Just listen. Then Ananias went to the house and entered it. He obeyed the Lord's commands regardless of his apprehensions. And you know what happened? You know what happened after that? Saul gave his life to Jesus. Ananias shared the gospel. He prayed over Saul that his blindness would go away and something like scales fell off of his eyes, and then Saul was baptized, and then Saul was saved. And you guys know the rest of the story. Saul of Tarsus became the Apostle Paul, the world's most famous missionary. The guy who wrote over half of the New Testament was this guy named Saul, who is now Paul. The most vicious persecutor of the church became the most vivacious preacher of the gospel. God used Ananias, a reluctant witness, to get Paul jump-started on his incredible ministry, his incredible missionary ministry. Jesus said this to his disciples, and Jesus said this to you and me. He says this. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And surely I am with you to the very end of the age. The Lord, Jesus, has commanded every single one of us who would call Jesus Savior to go into the world and make disciples. Sharing your faith, evangelism, is not an option, it's a command. Jesus said, go. Like God told Ananias, go, and so he went. He tells us to go, regardless of fear, regardless of anything that might come into our life. We have to go out of obedience. You know what's so interesting about this is as we go and we take steps of obedience, our fears will begin to diminish. The Lord will fill us with his confidence. And here's the thing, even if that doesn't happen, God can use your shaky hands and your shaky voice to change someone's life. Here's the best definition I've ever heard of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in spite of fear. And God's calling every single one of us to courageously share the gospel. And when we do that, we realize that the Holy Spirit empowers us. to share the gospel. The Holy Spirit gives us the words to say. And I just want to share this. Jesus said, go make disciples. Go make disciples. He's saying, go share the gospel with every single person that you would encounter. But what does he say at the end of that? And he says, I'm with you to the very end of the age. He's saying, Jesus is saying, I'm with you even to the end. Like, I want you to go. I want you to share the gospel. I want you to share the story of how I have changed your life. And when you do that, I'm going with you. I'm going to go with you. I'll be with you in every single trial. He says, Brady, I'm going to go with you as you work at the firehouse and you share the gospel with your friends. I'm going to go with you, Brady. I'm going to go with you, Joey. I'll be with you in your job and what you're going to do. Whatever you do as your job, I'm going to be with you. Mandy, I'm going to be with you. I got this whole restaurant thing figured out. I know this restaurant thing is stressful, but I'm going to be with you. As you go and and share the gospel, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you, Matt. As you work as a CO, I'm going to be with you in that prison. I'm going to give you opportunities to share the gospel with people that have no idea of what the gospel is. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you, Ben, as you're in the school and you're teaching band or whatever band teachers do. And I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you as you teach music. I'm going to go with you as you share the gospel. Nick, as you farm, I'm going to be with you, man. As you go out and you take leaps and steps of faith, as your hands are shaking and your voice is trembling, and you're standing in front of somebody that doesn't know Jesus and you know they need to, Jesus says, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be standing right there alongside you. Have no doubt about it. One, I've already been working in that person's heart. Two, I'm going to be standing right there next to you. So you go and you share the message of Jesus with every single person that you encounter. Some years back, some young Christian women were in Afghanistan. And this story took Christians all over the world it grabbed all of our attention. There's these two young girls, and we were so captivated by their courage. The courage of Dana Curry and Heather Mercer. These two young Christian women, like I said, were in their early 20s, and they were in prison in Afghanistan for sharing the Jesus film and sharing the gospel with a small group of people in this Muslim culture where it's illegal to share the gospel. Thankfully, after several weeks of pressure from the U.S. government, Dana and Heather were released and returned back to the States. And one reporter asked them, did you know that it was illegal to do what you did? And the two young women, they both smiled sheepishly and admitted, we knew they wouldn't like it. But we love the Afghan people so much, we just had to tell them about Jesus, regardless of the cost. Friends, in light of their boldness, what's the reason that you and I offer to never sharing Jesus with our friends, coworker, and our sphere of influence? What is our reason for not sharing the gospel? Preacher Mark Copeland, author of several books, suggested that many Christians are like unused sponges who sit, soak, and sour. And Copeland says that we need to soak and then share to stay fresh. Friends, Jesus' requirements are simple. He says to go and make disciples. Go into your world and make disciples. And this is a lifelong command. It's not over when you become a Christian. It's not over after sharing the gospel once. It's a lifelong command. And when we take this to heart, this changes our whole perspective on church, on ministry, on sharing. Like when you come to understand that God is using you to reach other people, it changes everything. Like when you come to church, you no longer come to church just hoping that there's a new spin on a familiar verse. When you bring your unsaved friends to church, you're sitting there and you're praying, God, please speak to my friend. Please open up their hearts to receive the gospel. And when they do, It changes your life. Like if you need your spiritual life refreshed, if you need to be re-energized, share the gospel and watch that person come to know Jesus. Nothing will fire you up more than that. I pray that we'll never lose the wonder of sharing the gospel and seeing people who don't know Jesus come to know Jesus. I want to end with a story of a young man. This is way back, a long time ago. I think it was in the 40s. This young man in North Carolina whose parents were holding a revival on their family farm. And this man at the time was about 16 years old. And he was very aggressively against Jesus, very against the gospel. And there was this young evangelist that came and who was having a revival every single night. And so this young man and his friend decided one night, we'll go check out what's going on at this revival. And so as they went, they heard the evangelist sharing the gospel. And in the middle of it, they stood up and they walked out to leave. And then an old man sitting in the back saw the two young men walk and get up. And there was something stirring in this old man saying, I need to go talk to those young boys. And so he ran out there and said, hey, you guys can't leave yet. The pastor hasn't gotten to the best part. He's about to share the story of salvation only in Jesus. Like, you got to come back and sit down. And through some negotiating, the two young boys came back and sat down. One of the young boys ended up giving his life to Jesus after that revival, after that church service. And that young man's name was William Graham. You may know him as Billy Graham. Billy Graham has led more people to Christ and spoke in front of more people about Jesus than anybody else in history. And it has to make you wonder, what if that invitation wasn't extended to Billy Graham? What if he would have stayed in his seat and didn't run to him saying, you got to hear this. You got to hear this message of salvation found only in Jesus. It will change your life. What would have happened? Friends, you and I are commanded to go and make disciples. It is our job as Christians to reach Fayette County and Ohio for Jesus. And I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Friends, we are plan A in God's plan of reaching a lost and unbelieving world. And there is no plan B. We are plan A, and there is no plan B.